Hello everyone, Mark here. Hope everyone's doing well. Starting a channel on Star Wars customizable card game. So welcome to the channel. As for why I'm creating this channel, well, there seem to be a plethora of channels right now for Magic the Gathering card game and Pokemon TCG, which were both prominent card games that were either around or spanning the release of Star Wars CCG, which was a Star Wars based customizable card game from around the year 1995 to 2001. Going beyond that a little bit, right now, both MTG, Magic the Gathering, and Pokemon have seen a large resurgence in collectability with increased prices, recognition, popularity, you name it, all the above. But many other collectibles have also seen similar increases in popularity. Star Wars is no exception. And what I want to get across in this video is I think it's really still yet unappreciated. If you look at mostly the popularity and comes with prices. I mean, prices are among other things, a reflection of popularity and intrinsic value in products. But relative to its contemporaries, I believe that the Star Wars card game is highly undervalued. Now, I've been primarily a collector of said cards back in the day, so let me give a little bit of a brief background of myself and where this is a bit of a haphazard video, but it's kind of how I work at my best, I believe. So, 90s, I started collecting a Star Wars customizable card game in my elementary years. This would have been around the release of Hoth, so I believe that would have been around 1996 or 97. Hoth, Dagobah, yeah, I started collecting around the Hoth and Dagobah release. It was fun. Lots of my friends also collected this card game. Magic was a little bit old for us, but we did dabble a little bit in that. It was quite popular. I believe at the time it was actually the second most popular card game to Magic the Gathering. I kept on collecting pretty readily until maybe about Jabba's Palace or special editions. That would have been, 98, 99, I believe. 99, I think. And then I switched over to Pokemon because we were playing the Pokemon card, or the Game Boy game, and the cards that came with it. So I started with the first edition base set in English, and then I went through to Fossil, and then I switched to Japanese because it was kind of cooler because they were ahead, which was a big deal at the time. Now it doesn't really make much of a difference as far as the actual Pokemon in it. I mean, I don't know, I don't collect the modern cards, but at the time it was a big deal because you had the 150 Pokemon in the English release, and you had the additional up to 250 in Japanese with the Neo at the time, which was the coolest thing, having those cards and being like, look, I have a Pokemon that don't even exist yet in the US. Like, that was awesome, especially in the day we didn't have like prominent internet like nowadays. It was really great. One of the things that lured me over to Pokemon was the existence of the foil cards. I actually pulled a first edition Charizard myself back in the day. I actually got it graded. Maybe I'll show it one of these days. But that was one of the things that lured me to Pokemon. So I actually switched a little bit from collecting Star Wars to Pokemon. I suspect that happened to quite a few other people as well. But I got back into the hobby actually earlier this year, last year in 2020. I was submitting a decent amount of my Pokemon cards because the prices have been going up, and I went back with my collection like many other people. But before the really big boom, it was kind of already on the upward trajectory, but didn't have the upward trajectory that the summer brought. The whole Logan Paul thing and whatnot. And I submitted some of my Star Wars cards. The main characters, got them graded. Most of them did pretty well. I ended up selling that batch, but it got me back into the hobby. Wanted to collect some just modern. Well, not modern. There is modern. I guess you could compare that to Destiny, but that's a whole other topic that I'll fry for another video. But it got me thinking, okay, people are paying, now even crazier amounts of money. At the time, my Charizard was, let's say, it was a PSA 9 Charizard, and it was worth $5,000. I was like, well, it might go up over time, but it's a lot of money. It's nothing life changing, but it's a decent amount of money. And now, as I'm making this video in the very beginning of 2021, it's going for around $50,000, or around 10 times multiplier in 1 year. If you could ever predict with any certainty investments that'll make you 1,000% on the year, you could be well, the trick would be to doing it in a risk averse manner, but if you could consistently return that, well, you'd be in a class of your own. Anyhow, I actually think Star Wars has the potential for something like that. Of course, there's nothing certainty in anything, but just from some of the combination of factors that exist here, and I'll explain that maybe in this video, probably in a very brief overview, but another video, hopefully I'll go more into depth on that. So here's why I think the Star Wars CCG is highly undervalued right now. And one is that nostalgia factor. There are a lot of people who collected this back in the day. If it's a card, like some random Star Wars collectible, I mean, there's tons of those out there, but this was prominent. And it was probably the Star Wars card, at least in my era, that people connected to. Because there was another Star Wars card game that came after it, called Star Wars TCG, actually by probably a more nowadays recognized company, Wizards of the Coast, whereas Star Wars CCG was produced by Decipher, which many people now may not know what company that is. People probably know what Wizards of the Coast is, but Star Wars TCG was not nearly as popular, to my understanding. It doesn't seem as inspired to me. I don't know, I'm probably biased, I didn't collect it, but as far as like a Star Wars card game, the other one to consider, main one, at least that I know of, is Destiny, which is kind of like, maybe that's more like Pokemon Modern versus Pokemon Vintage that people talk about, or MTG Modern versus MTG, or I guess it'd be Standard versus Vintage. That's a whole different ball game. I'm not really too familiar with Star Wars Destiny. It seems interesting, but I just never really collected it myself. But with Star Wars CCG, it has a lot of factors going for it, in my opinion. And one of them, again, was that it was kind of the prominent Star Wars card game in my youth, which would have been like late 90s, early 2000s. Another thing going forward is the Star Wars fandom, of course. If you've ever been on the Facebook group, or just, it's kind of always been a factor that people collect Star Wars memorabilia. But if you go on, say, the Facebook group, my Star Wars room, it's kind of crazy. People's Star Wars collections. I guess it's the same kind of for Pokemon. People do collect a lot of Pokemon stuff. Magic is a little different. My understanding of Magic is that lots of people play the game, like Standard. Vintage is kind of a different animal. Like, you kind of have a smaller group of very, very, very hardcore people following it. It's very kind of a niche interest, but people who are into it are really into it. I would consider collecting Magic Vintage if the price were right, but my nostalgia factor for it, like, I don't really have that much degree of, connection to the cards to want to buy an alpha card for, hundreds or thousands of bucks. But say with Star Wars cards, let me actually grab one for you. Got it fresh back from grading. So this here, that's towards the end of my collecting era. Death Star pack. I actually pulled a non-full version of this from the Death Star 2 set, but here is a full version of Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. So this is in the Reflections 2 set, which had foil reprints of many of the popular cards in kind of the middle of the print run of Star Wars CCG. Anyhow, you can get these cards raw right now for probably around $200 to $300 for a foil Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. Okay, this one's mint. Usually you could probably, I'd say you could probably find a mint one on eBay right now if you looked hard enough, or if you knew someone message them in, some Star Wars CCG fan groups. Okay, but right now, like, okay, would I rather have comparing it to other card games and the intrinsic value of these versus popularity, etc. Would I rather have this card, or let's see, in Pokemon, what could you probably get for $200 or $300? Nothing, first edition, holo, in any of the early sets, to my understanding. Maybe, yeah, you could get like, you could get like a first edition, I don't know, maybe a middle tier PSA 9 from like, I don't know, Jungle Fossil. Could you? I don't even know. People are selling like PSA 9 or PSA 10 commons and uncommons for like 50 or 60 bucks, $100, $200. Oh, or you could get, basically one of the top cards in this game. Now, technically there's cards that are much rarer if you get into, say, Japanese or tournament foils. But still, there's probably not that many of these made compared to modern products. I don't know the exact numbers on it, but I suspect it's pretty low. So that gets down to the problem, or rather the issue of scarcity. So none of these are in print anymore and have not been since the early 2000s. Stopped being printed in 2001, I believe. And then the company that made the product, Decipher, lost the license. The price of the product crashed drastically. You could get boxes for dirt cheap, like 10, 20, 30 bucks in many cases, maybe even cheaper. People opened a ton of the boxes at that point because the future was very uncertain. The assets are, I call it assets, a little bit obnoxious, but it's kind of true. Like, anything's really an asset if you think about it. Well, let's just say the boxes, they were very inexpensive because the risk is high. Like, it could just become worthless paper. But they didn't. They came back up in price. And now prices of sealed are skyrocketing. Probably because 1, they're old. 2, it's Star Wars. 3, a lot of them were probably opened. 4, how much of it was printed for the later sets? Probably not very much. And let's look at this another way. People are really into Pokemon right now, right? And I kind of like Pokemon. I collected quite a bit of it. I can pull out some of my cards from my collection and show it on camera right now. But here's the thing. When's the last time I actually played Pokemon? Like, I've played a couple of the games on 3DS. I haven't played any of the ones on Switch yet. When's the last time I watched Pokemon? Well, I actually have 2 kids and they watch Pokemon. I can't say I've really paid much attention to the show. I don't particularly feel any desire to watch it. It's an alright show. It's just, it's made for kids and doesn't really appeal to me. I could watch it, but there's a lot of things I'd rather watch, like Star Wars, The Mandalorian. It's like one of the biggest tickets in town right now, and now they're expanding to a whole bunch of other franchises. It's, in my opinion, the #1 pop culture kind of general appeal right now, like even bigger than Pokemon. And collectibles have always been a big thing in Star Wars. It has a bigger age range appeal than Pokemon, in my opinion. Like, my parents, in their 60s and 70s, people older than that, they all can appreciate the value of Star Wars. Pokemon, I feel, is much more youth-centric. Like, probably mostly people my age and younger, I'm in my early 30s, are going to be the ones who are primarily interested in Pokemon. There might be people who are older, and there probably are, just not quite like Star Wars that came out in the 70s versus Pokemon that came out in the 90s. It's just much more multi-generational. So for those reasons and more that I'll probably get into later, I think that Star Wars CCG is highly undervalued, and I've actually put a decent amount of my money into it, so, disclosure. How can I say disclosure? Like, I put a lot of money into it. I'm not planning on pumping and dumping, but I am invested into it. So, of course, it's in my own best interest to want to hype it up a little bit, right? And I can't necessarily escape that. It's human nature. Just like people are in Pokemon, want Pokemon to do well because they like it and they'll do well financially from it. So, for myself and Star Wars CCG, I have both those elements going for me. I really like it, and if it does well, I would do pretty well financially. So, just full disclosure on that. But I'm putting my money, on the other hand, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, so you can rest assured I'm not trying to mislead anybody else I'm definitely not telling you what to do with your money because I don't know your financial situation or your strengths and weaknesses as far as what you know, like in terms of collectibles or different markets and all that. You can evaluate your current situation the best out of anyone. But yeah, I'd probably want to seek financial advice from a licensed financial advisor. But for myself, I think it's an incredible opportunity to be able to collect something I love and buy it at a price that, in my opinion, is far undervalued relative to its contemporaries. There's questions in Pokemon, for example. I just watched a video by a couple of folks on Pokemon grading and Pokemon being a bubble and blah blah blah. I'm of the opinion, for whatever it's worth, that modern Pokemon probably will end up being like Beanie Babies someday. It might be a while. It's a little different though, because Beanie Babies just kind of sit around, whereas Pokemon cards, you actually get the enjoyment of opening them. So I don't know if they'll appreciate like people are hoping they will, just because there's so many different sets. It becomes difficult to differentiate like one from another once you get like to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I don't know how many sets there are. It's definitely in the mid to high double digits now, which is kind of crazy considering I stopped collecting around like Neo, which was like 5 or 10 sets, and I thought that was a lot. Star Wars, you don't have that problem. There's only like 15 sets, and they've all been out of print for like 20 years. Anyhow, right, so I don't think it'll necessarily go down in value like Beanie Babies just crashed, but I don't know if it'll appreciate like people are hoping it will, especially now because there's so much of it being printed. But there's not that problem with Star Wars because out of print again. Trying to think of some downsides because this is just gonna be like a smorgasbord video of just kind of random thoughts. Maybe that'll be my format, but later I'll try to have specific topics. But this one's just kind of an introductory video on my general thought process. You can decide whether you kind of think it's useful for you, in which case, God, it always annoys when people say it, but smash that subscribe button. Sorry. No, but really, if you do think that it's worth your time and effort, it kind of just tells me that, then I can put more time and effort into these videos. If not, whatever. I don't really need to do these. It's just something that was kind of speaking to me a little bit, so I thought I might give it a go because I put a lot of thought into this over the last few years. Likes, whatever, those sorts of things. Just the way YouTube works, unfortunately. I've started putting likes and subscribes on people's videos because it doesn't take much effort on my part and it helps them out. So yeah, if it helps you out, just or if it speaks to you in some way, just feel free to throw that in there so I can see that people are appreciating it. What else? What was I going with that? Oh yeah, card games, right? So the thing that Magic and Pokemon might have going for them is they're not defunct. But it actually is a kind of it's a double-edged sword. So with Pokemon, for example, I don't think many people really played the card game very seriously. I did play the card game a little bit on like the Game Boy. They had that Pokemon card game, like Game Boy game. I played that a little bit. But Pokemon's strength has never been its like it itself as a card game. Like it was just kind of an alright card game intended to sell collectibles. They've improved it a little bit with like trainer cards since then to add depth, but I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm greatly offending the Pokemon card game aficionados out there, but I don't know. I don't think it's ever been its strength. That's not a great card game now. I'm sure it is. They put a lot of work into it, but that was never really its strength. Magic, on the other hand, was intended to be a very primarily as a card game. That's what it was. I don't know if it's the card game that started it all, but it was designed to be fun to play, and it is. I really enjoy playing Magic the Gathering. But what it doesn't have going for it is the kind of broad collectability appeal. It certainly does have an appeal. It's just kind of more of a niche market who are very hardcore, in my opinion. Star Wars card game was very broad back in the day. It has really nice pictures taken from the films on the cards. They're quite scenic and beautiful in my opinion. People like to admire the artwork on cards, and Star Wars definitely has that nostalgia in spades. People might say that since it's extinct, or defunct, that's a mark against it. And from a gameplay perspective, I guess it could be. But on the other hand, I think it's actually a plus because Pokemon and Magic have kind of run the course in various ways, and maybe you get people who start in Modern and then want to collect Vintage for both, but I don't know. Like, I don't think it necessarily works that way. Maybe it does. I don't know. Whereas Star Wars collectors are just kind of like all over the place, and I don't think you will have any shortage of people who want to collect Star Wars cards. I could see people wanting to display them, just like they do the 1970s cards, but I think these are much more crafted in an aesthetic manner than some of those like 70s Topps cards. Like, this is just, could be my intrinsic bias, but I think those are just like absolutely beautiful. I mean, what's worth more money to you? Let me put it this way. Luke Skywalker, the main protagonist of Star Wars. Like, when you were in a playground in elementary school, how many of you wanted to be like Luke Skywalker when you were playing around? Or, let me get a counterpoint. What's a card that's about the same value as this? Let's see if I can find one. Got a bunch of Japanese cards over here. Okay, this one's probably worth more than Luke Skywalker, if I had to guess. Here we have PSA 9 first edition Fossil Gengar. I think I got this in a first edition Fossil set box that I opened for, I think, my birthday one year. Would have been, yeah, around, what, 1989? Okay, I think this card, if I had to guess, is probably, you know, mid-hundreds right now. Probably more than Luke Skywalker. Which one of these would you rather have? Which one do you have more attachment to? Which one would you have had more attachment to in elementary, middle school, high school, college? You have $300. You don't know the market price of either one of these. Which one would you buy? This one or this one? And in 10 years from now, which one do you think will be worth more? This one or this one? I don't know. It's really interesting. I can't say for sure. But if I had the money, I'd still go with the Luke Skywalker right now. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. It's just beautiful. Like, well, that's another thing Star Wars has going for it. I mean, there's main characters, and they're actually not very expensive right now for some of the cards. Pokemon's gotten very, I don't want to use the word diluted, but I kind of do. There's a lot of Pokemon now. There are just so many Pokemon. And yeah, you kind of have the more main ones. It's not really clear what the main ones are, though, right? Because people like Charizard, right? Okay, fine. But Charizard's like, he's a starter, he's a fire type. People always kind of liked him, but I don't know. Like, okay, there's kind of Pikachu, but Pikachu's usually common, so okay, then he's not as collectible. He's one of the more famous ones. Okay, some it's like Mewtwo, he's the first legendary, but then okay, people don't really like him as much. The first Mewtwo wasn't very strong in base set. Okay, that's kind of like Lugia, because Lugia was kind of cool. Okay, Dragonite, sort of. Like, who's the chase Pokemon? I don't know. It's hard to say who's number one. Charizard's kind of taken it. Why? I don't know. Maybe people really like starting with him. First base set, he was the chase card, so it's kind of like Charizard, but to me, it's not really cut clear. I mean, I kind of get it. It's kind of like one of those things where people chase Charizard because they chase Charizard. I mean, he was one of the 3 starters. He was maybe the most popular one. I don't know. But Star Wars is much more cut and clear. You know, you got Luke Skywalker, and you have Darth Vader, who are like probably number 1 and 2. Actually, Darth Vader is usually more valuable than Luke Skywalker's. Then you have the other main characters. You have Han, you know, Leia, Chewie, R2-D2, C-3PO. Even go to Episode 1, you have some of them like Queen Amidala, Mace Windu, Darth Sidious, or Emperor Palpatine, depending on the time. Then you have Millennium Falcon, Red 5, things like that. You can get into side characters too, like Greedo, Bounty Hunters, Boba Fett, who kind of used to be a side character, now he's becoming, you know, a very main character. Yoda, the Death Star, very iconic, all over the place, very inexpensive right now. I don't know, I just wanted to make this video. I'll probably pop it up on YouTube next few days, so anyways, if you want to know more, just you know, drop me a comment, let me know what you're interested in knowing. I've got quite a bit of Star Wars CCG I could show off. I could try and draw more comparisons to MTG or Pokemon if people are interested in those, or they were interested in Star Wars CCG back in the day, want to get in, want to get back in, whatever. Thank you very much. Stay safe. And yeah, have a great day.